Today I have big pleasure to introduce Amrita Ghosh from University of Bonn. Let me just give some short introduction of her. So she did her master thesis at the Tata Institute in Bangalore. Then she moved to France and she did her PhD. It was like, let's say, PhD co-tutel between France and Spain. So it was Sherif Amrouche from University of Po, and from Bilbao, this I forgot.
It's Miguel Escobedo.
Miguel Escobedo. So she finished her PhD there. Then she moved for 1 year to Prague to work with me on some single limit and fluid structure interaction. And after that, she moved to University of Bonn, and she's working with in group of Barbara Niethammer and also with Velasquez. And today she will speak about, on this looks like Shikansen, but it's not. So it is how to call it?
It's Sheikh Murzaev.
Sheikh Murzaev approach to the contact line problem. So we are looking forward. Yeah, please.
Thank you. So first, let me thank the organizer for giving me the opportunity to talk here today. I welcome everyone here today in my talk, and I will give the talk about some particular model. Some particular model of this contact line problem. Okay, so first let me briefly tell what is a contact line problem. So a contact line is formed when three different phases of matter meets. Essentially, you can think of this this first picture here, this picture here. So here I typically have considered liquid, gas, and solid phases. So when one of the fluid phases is replaced by another fluid over a solid interface or solid surface, then the contact line forms. So here this contact line is denoted by C, and with time the whole system evolves. So as a result, this contact line also evolves along this solid surface, which is denoted by sigma 1, sigma 3. So the question is how to model this whole system, the contact line model. So here you can think of many opportunities. For example, I have considered here this liquid gas solid interface, or one can think of two liquids and a solid, or for example, three liquid or three fluid phases. So, but I have considered here one typical example of that. And yeah, so here this theta is denoted, this theta is the contact angle, which is the angle between this free interface, which is the sigma 1, that is the liquid gas interface. So this is the free interface. As you can understand that this is the interface between two fluids, so which can deform freely with time. So this free interface makes the contact angle theta with the solid surface, and this theta can take value from 0 to 180 degree. So this contact line phenomena, this appears in many natural and technological processes. For example, you can think of the rain, when the rain it's raining, the rain droplets over the glass, the window glass, or for example, the more natural process is that the painting over a wall. So all of these are examples of this contact line problem. Okay, so let me describe here on the second example in the second picture here. So you can see the fluid droplet is sitting over a surface, and here in this case, this is our contact angle theta. So in this particular example, this contact angle is very small, almost close to 0. This means okay, this phenomena is called as the de-wetting phenomena. That is the solid surface gets wet very little. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, so in this case, the contact between the fluid droplet and the surface happens in a very short portion, since this theta is very small, and that means the solid surface gets wet very little by this fluid. So this is known as a de-wetting case. And on the other hand, you can think of some thin fluid film sitting over this solid surface here. And in this case, this is the contact angle, which is very close to 180 degree. And so, I mean, yeah, so this is known as the wetting case. That means the solid surface gets wet in a more wide region by the fluid. As you can see, the fluid droplet is spreaded over the fluid. So yeah, these are the typical examples you can think of. So our goal is to model mathematically this whole phenomena, the time evolution of this whole model, and in particular the contact line, which is C here in this picture, C, and of course the contact angle theta. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So okay, let me say here. So if one considers the no slip boundary, so typically to model this, since there are fluids involved, so we can think of the standard classical fluid dynamics. And if one considers the no slip boundary condition, that is the Dirichlet boundary condition over this liquid solid interface, that's a sigma 2 here. So then it has been shown that the stress singularity of the liquid, that is the force exerted by the liquid on the solid, is becomes infinite. So that is the singularity happens, and it has been shown by Hu and Schreiben and Dusan and Davies around 1970s. And as a result, the pressure of the fluid also becomes singular. So this is known as the contact line paradox. So if I go back in the situation, so essentially to model this contact line problem, there are two fundamental questions. First of all, how to remove this contact line paradox, that is the singularity of the stress tensor of the fluid. And secondly, how can one model this contact angle theta? So this theta can depend on various parameters from the model. For example, this contact line, which is which has a velocity, since it changes its position with time. So this contact angle theta might be a function of the velocity of the contact angle, or it might depend on several other parameters. So yeah, there are two fundamental questions to model the contact angle problem. One is this to prescribe the right boundary condition, or some way to remove this contact line paradox. And secondly, this how to prescribe the contact angle, which is the angle between the free surface and the solid surface. So there has been several proposals to answer these two questions. First of all, if you want to model, okay, yeah, so considering this contact angle, let me tell you that there are two notions of the contact angle in this scenario. So if you are in the equilibrium configuration, then this contact angle is known as the static contact angle. That is, yeah, it's not moving. So this is denoted by theta s sometimes. And there is another notion of contact angle, which is the dynamic contact angle, when the situation is not in equilibrium, out of the equilibrium. So to prescribe these contact angles, one proposal has been proposed by Davies, which he suggested that essentially to take the dynamic contact angle is equal to the static contact angle. But of course, this does not cover any general situation. And later, there was a proposal that the velocity of the contact angle, which I denote here by VC, this is a function of the differences of the dynamic and the static contact angle, power sum m. M depends on the system. So this is, you can think of some generalization of the first condition. And also Solonikov and some co-authors have suggested to take the dynamic contact angle is equal to 180 degree. But again, that's some particular case. Recently, there has been some work or some model proposed by Ren E and some other people who have proposed that the velocity of the contact angle is a function of the cosine of the dynamic and the static contact angle is given by this last condition here. Yeah, so as you can see, there has been several proposals by different authors how to prescribe the contact angle. On the other hand, to remove this contact line paradox, the choice one always uses the slip boundary condition instead of the no slip boundary condition, and which says essentially is that tangential component of the normal stress is proportional to the tangential component of the differences of the velocities of the liquid and the solid. And the proportionality constant is given by this beta, which is also known as the friction coefficient. And yeah, so now concerning this friction coefficient, there has been again several proposals. Some suggested it could be some constant, or it might depend on the contact angle theta. And probably I think there are some other proposals depending on the, I mean, if you are near the contact angle, then one proposes to take beta equal to infinity, and if you are far away from the contact angle, then take beta equal to 0 or something like that, or probably other way around, something. Maybe I said it wrong. Anyway, so as you can understand, if one combines this all the possibilities for prescribing the contact angle and removing the singularity of the stress tensor, then there could be several models one can consider. So, I mean, you understand the first the conditions in the first part, and the several other possibilities for this slip boundary condition. But all of them, especially for this contact angle, is not very satisfying how to prescribe this contact angle, since most of these suggestions have prescribed some particular case, but not capturing the dynamical phenomena of the system, or yeah, the not really giving the dynamical contact angle. Yeah, so here today I will talk about another such possibility, which was proposed by Yuli Shikmuzai around 1993. And his idea was based on the approach by Bedo, Alvano, and Mazur. So first, let me briefly describe the scenario here, the configuration. So as I mentioned before, that I have considered here gas, liquid, and solid in phases. And all of these three phases meet at this contact line C. So if you are in 2D, this contact line becomes a contact point, but in 3D, this is a contact line. So here, this C is our contact point, you can say. And the sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3, these are the interfaces between these three bulk phases. And theta is the contact angle. So we want to use the classical classical hydrodynamics, and together with the irreversible thermodynamics. I'll explain why the thermodynamics is important to consider here. Okay, so for the liquid, we consider essentially an incompressible Newtonian fluid, which is given by the density rho L, the velocity VL, and the temperature T. Okay, so these are the quantities to describe the fluid, which is an incompressible Newtonian fluid. For the gas, what we consider this is given by an ideal gas, which is given by the pressure. Pressure. Oh, sorry, I removed everything. So yeah, the pressure for the gas is given by Pg. And for the solid, we consider this is a rigid body, and therefore it has only, we need to consider only the velocity of the solid, which is given by Vs. So here you can just see I have denoted by this rho, V, and T. Rho is the density for different quantities. I mean, with the subscript, for example, for the liquid, I wrote rho L, VL, and T. So this rho L, the subscript L means the liquid, G means gas, and S means solid. Okay, the interesting part of this Shikmuzai model is that he considered each of these interfaces, sigma 1, sigma 2, and sigma 3, they have their own characteristic properties. That means each of these interfaces have, for example, densities, velocities of their own. I mean, different from the bulk density or velocity. So the reason being is that you can think of the fluid molecules which are initially situated on this free interface sigma 1, that comes to this contact line C with time, and then it moves along with the solid surface sigma 2 or sigma 3. So essentially the interface sigma 1, which its density has changed with time, and as well as the density of the interfaces sigma 2 or sigma 3 has changed. So and similarly the velocity can change for each of these interfaces. So it need not be upright. There is no reason to think of that the velocity of the interface, let's say sigma 2, has to be equal to the solid velocity. So that's why the idea of Shikmuzai was to consider that each of these interfaces have their own properties, because that's how this contact line, the problem is. I mean, that's in the core of this contact line problem, that everything is evolving with time, and we want to see how does the dynamics become. Okay, so for that, so since each of these interfaces have their own surface properties, so
it seems that there is some question. So Stefan, you have some question?
Yeah, if I could just quickly.
Yeah, please.
Oh, please.
So is it possible that we could also think about formulating this as a solid-solid triple junction structure of 3 solid phases rather than solid liquid gas?
I'm not completely sure if you can consider 3 solids, but
it was just simply you're giving the feeling there that the interface of the solid is part of the free boundary. That's why I was.
No, the interface on the solid is not free. I mean,
so it's still okay. So
it's kind of given or fixed, you can say. But the free boundary is sigma 1. That's the liquid gas interface.
Yeah, I guess I had sort of melting solidification happening at the same time.
Okay, I mean, you can think of that, but I think that needs to take into account more.
Yeah, I understood.
Yeah, but yes.
The parameters of what you were looking at. Thank you.
Right.
So
but essentially, yeah.
So sigma 1 is moving and sigma 2, sigma 3 is fixed.
Are fixed, exactly. I mean, for simplification, you can think of that.
Okay,
yes.
good.
Okay, and yeah, so for each of these interfaces, we considered the corresponding surface properties, that is the densities by rho s I for each of the interfaces, and then the velocity is vsi, and what else? And of course, they have the temperature as well. So for the temperature here, I am not using any indexes s or l or something. I'll come to that later, but at this point, we are assuming that the temperature is same everywhere in the full model, but that could be different as well. I mean, there could be differences of the temperature. Yeah, but so you understand each of these parameter. I mean, the variables, that the density, velocity, and the temperature is with this indices. Small s is for the surfaces, and L is for liquid, G for gas, and capital S is for solid. And of course, for this contact line, we have the velocity, which is denoted by Vc. C is for contact line. But for the contact line, we do not consider that it has any density. One can consider a more general case, but here we are considering that the density of the contact line is 0. That's what I wrote here, is that rho C is equal to 0. And as I said, the solid we are considering is a rigid body, so it is given essentially by the translational and the rotational velocity, which is given by this. And another thing, so of course, and it is essentially the gas is not, it has some density, so it's not inviscid. So it has the density rho g, but we have assumed since there is a liquid, so of course, I mean, it is natural to assume that the rho g is much smaller compared to rho l. The liquid, the gas density is much smaller compared to liquid density. So essentially, we will ignore most of the equations where this rho g appears. But the gas is given by the pressure. That's the main how we can describe the gas. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we want to write down the classical fluid dynamics for this model, and so we want to write down the conservation equation for the mass, momentum, and the energy. For that, we need to write the full mass density of the system. We do not consider here for each of the three phases. So I mean, there is the bulk phase and the interface and the contact line. So if you are typically in 3D, the fluids is in 3D, the interfaces are as like 2-dimensional object, and the contact line is a 1-dimensional object. But we want to write this as a whole, as a full system. That's why we consider here the total mass density, which I denote here by rho. But rho is nothing but the contribution coming from the liquid, from the solid, and from the interfaces. So here, note that, I mean, typically it could be that there is a third density from the third interface, sigma 3 liquid, solid gas. But here I have just ignored that solid gas interface. The reason being that I assume there is no liquid molecule coming over this solid gas interface. So I assumed it's coming from here and just going from here. That's all. So that's why I just ignored the solid gas part. But that's a simplification. So this is our total mass density coming from the bulk part and the surface part. And then similarly, we can write down the total momentum density for the full system, for the liquid, for the solid, and from the two interfaces. Then this is the general mass conservation law. This is the time derivative of the rho plus the divergence of the momentum is equal to 0. And if we plug in this general expression for the density and the momentum, the mass density and the momentum, we obtain these three equations after some integration by parts. I mean, this is straightforward. One can just compute it. So let me explain briefly this first equation. This is for the liquid, which is nothing but the incompressibility equation. And since we have considered the gas density is very small compared to the liquid density, there is no equation for the gas. And similarly for the solid, there is no equation since we have considered the rho is constant. This is given by a rigid body. So in the bulk, we have only the equation for the fluid. And then we have the equation for the three interfaces. So this first term here, delta sigma, this is nothing but the normal derivative on the interface. And then this is the surface divergence, div sigma. And then this kappa appears in this third term, which is the curvature of the interface. And then this last part, this is the mass flux coming from the bulk part. Since you see there is the rho L is the density of the liquid. So this accounts for the mass flux coming from the bulk part. And this first three term is essentially gives the fact that the surface density is not in equilibrium. Surface density devalued, how do I say, like changes from its equilibrium configuration. So that's why this three term comes in this first part. So essentially, if you consider rho is equal to 0, we are left with this third part, and this is nothing but the impermeability condition. There's a normal velocity is equal on the interface. So this can be seen as a generalization of the standard impermeability equation. And lastly, we have this equation at the contact line, which is the contributions or the mass flux coming from each of the interfaces. So here you can see this rho S1 is the surface density of the first or the free interface over sigma 1, and this is the surface density of the interface sigma 2. So these are the mass fluxes coming from each of the interfaces on the contact point or contact line. Okay, so we have obtained three mass conservation equations and on each of the interfaces. On the same spirit, we can obtain the conservation of momentum equation. So this is the general momentum balance equation, and the momentum I have just explained here before. There's the total momentum density for the full system, and the momentum flux is given by this quantity, which is the coming from the liquid, the solid, and the surfaces. And remember that here we have some contribution from the gas as well. So this S is nothing but the stress tensors for each of the phases. And since we do not have a priori any information how the stress tensor looks like, we have the contribution of the stress tensor for the gas. I mean, a priori we cannot just ignore that. Okay, so plugging in all these relations in this general momentum balance equation, we again obtain equations for each of the interface, each of the phases. So the first equation here, this is nothing but the Navier-Stokes equation for the liquid, and similarly for the solid. And for the gas, we have only this equation. Essentially, since we have neglected the density of the gas, so we have the divergence of the stress tensor equal to 0. Only this part is left. And for the interface, similarly, we have so what is happening? I don't know. Okay, so for the interface, we have only this third equation, where again this first part is accounted for the changes in the surface densities, and this last part, this is the momentum fluxes coming from the bulk part, which is essentially the contribution from the liquid and the solid or the gas. And finally, we have the equation on the contact line, which are the fluxes coming from each of the interfaces. So again, if you see for this surface equation, this is this third equation. Here, if you consider rho is equal to 0, then we are left with, so that's what is mentioned at the bottom, is left with the standard equation of capillarity, which is the standard equation when you think of where the capillary effect is important. Then you obtain this equation. So again, this is some sense of generalization of the standard capillary equation. Okay, and then we obtain the conservation of energy equation. Here we denote E. That's the total energy density for each of the phases, which are nothing but the sum of the kinetic energy and the internal energy. Internal energy is denoted by U here. And then we have the energy fluxes, which is the sum of convective part, energy flux, and the heat fluxes. And for each of the term, there are contributions from the liquid, solid, and three interfaces. Plugging this in the general energy conservation equation, we obtain this bunch of equation. Okay, the last equation, I don't know if you can see. Yeah, so in the bulk, on the interfaces and at the contact line, we have the three equations. So I'm not going into details. I mean, these are the standard equations, some extra terms, and that's all. I mean, nothing fancy there. Okay, finally, we want to write down the entropy balance equation, and there comes the thermodynamical part. So we can write down the entropy balance equation. Here, S is the total entropy, and Js is the entropy flux, and this sigma on the right hand side is denoted as the entropy production rate. So with this, we obtain these general equations for liquid, solid, gas, and three interfaces, and at the contact line. So just remember that on each of the right-hand side, we have this entropy production rate for each of the phases. Here, sigma L, sigma S, sigma G, and sigma small s. Okay, so now comes the important part, is that we want to essentially relate the energy and the entropy balance equation. So this is how one does in the standard situation, is that there is this Gibbs relation, which says that in the case of local equilibrium, the deviation of this total entropy density is given by the deviation of the total internal energy density and the total interface energy deviation and the changes in the density. So here U is the internal energy. It's not the velocity. Remember, velocity is denoted by V, but U is the internal energy. And here mu is the chemical potential, where this chemical potential is related to the thermodynamic pressure P by this relation. So in other way, you can think of that the entropy density is nothing but a function of the internal energy density and the mass density given by this function h, where the derivative with respect to each of the variables are given by this quantity 1 over T, that's the temperature, and the chemical potential over the temperature. So that's another interpretation of this Gibbs relation. So essentially now, if you look at this, I don't know now. It's not working. So if you look at this first equation, there's this Gibbs relation. Here we have some derivative of the entropy and some derivative of the internal energy and the mass density. So what we can do, if we just consider this first equation, for example, for the fluid or the liquid, we have the here in this first two terms, these are the convective derivative of the entropy, and this derivative now related to the derivative of the internal energy and the mass density. And for each of the internal energy and the density, mass density, we have the equation already for the mass balance equation and the energy balance equation. So we can relate these three equations for the entropy, the internal energy, and the mass density with the help of this. Okay, that's bad. Yeah, with the help of this relation in the second equation here, and we obtain the relation, obtain some expression for the entropy production rate. So if I just go back here on the right hand side, we have, I just told you that there is a entropy production rate, and writing all the derivatives on the left hand side in terms of the energy and the mass density, we obtain some expression for the internal energy. This is the standard process in the thermodynamics, the irreversible thermodynamics. Okay, so here I just wrote the expression for the entropy production rate for the liquid only, which is sigma L here, and that is given by the heat flux, that is this JLQ times the gradient of the temperature, plus this is nothing but the trace-free stress tensor of the liquid, and then there is the symmetric gradient of the velocity for the liquid. Now we use this Onsager's principle, which says three conditions. First of all, there is a linear relation between the generalized forces and generalized fluxes. Secondly, the generation of entropy, that's this sigma, is a non-negative quadratic form. And third condition is that the matrix generated from this quadratic form is symmetric. So what does that mean? So yeah, so what does that mean is that in this expression for this liquid entropy production rate, this heat flux is nothing but a constant times the gradient of the temperature, and on the same spirit, this symmetric stress tensor, this is the trace free part of the stress tensor is some constant times the gradient of the velocity. That's what it says by this Onsager's principle. Because I mean, you understand, this is the heat flux and this is the force coming from the temperature, and similarly this is the flux part which is coming from the stress tensor, and there's a force coming from the gradient, symmetric gradient of the velocity. So with this Onsager principle, essentially we obtain the several relations. For example, what I just explained to you is that we obtain the heat flux relation for the liquid, similarly for the solid and the gas. And then we have obtained this specific form of the stress tensor for the liquid and for the gas. So this is exactly what I told you here. So this is SL plus the pressure, the trace-free stress tensor is equal to this symmetric gradient. So that's what.
Yeah, there is. Sorry, Amrita. There is again question.
Sure.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sorry for jumping in again.
No, go ahead.
On my camera. Yes, so I'm excited to see the Onsager principle reference there. So just if I could, I'm trying to remind myself. So, so the linear relation between generalized forces, generalized fluxes, I recall that. And then generation of entropy is non-negative quadratic form.
Right.
I thought the way he formulated his principle, it was a maximum dissipation principle, and the symmetry relations were a consequence of that.
I think you were right. I think yes, this is kind of a consequence of the general condition.
Yeah. So just to remind myself, it's a beautiful. I'm glad you're referencing. I think it was a maximum dissipation principle, which is equivalent to saying gradient flow essentially. And then that implies the symmetry condition.
Right, you are right. I think that's what the original condition is.
Thomas, I think, may have something to say as well.
There is Tomas. He would like
so
to
may I just ask? So, what this condition that there is no magnetic field means? So to my understanding, so symmetry may be related.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Yes.
So
exactly.
sorry.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so as I just explained, in the bulk we have obtained these two sets of equation. One is given the expression for the heat fluxes, and another is for the stresses of the different bulk stresses. And okay, just to mention is that here, note that we have the relation, some expression for the liquid stress tensor and the gas stress tensor, but nothing for the solid. The reason being is that we have considered here the solid is a rigid body. That's why this, I don't know why my pen is not working. That's very strange. Okay, anyway, so if I go here, yeah, still it's not working. Okay, so anyway, so probably you can see my cursor is that if there is a rigid body, then this symmetric gradient of the velocity vanishes, and therefore there is no this last term. So only the first part is there. So we do not obtain any information about the stress tensor of the solid body, and that's kind of I mean, we were quite astonished about that. But yeah, I think I don't know if there is any other way to obtain any precise expression for the stress tensor of the solid body. Anyway, so and then with the similar way with this Gibbs relation, we can obtain several boundary conditions. I mean, if I just go back here, there is this equation for the entropy on the interfaces, and then we can relate that equation for with the with the energy equation for the interfaces and the surface density equations. And we obtain similar conditions for from several terms equating these generalized fluxes and forces. Yeah, the several boundary conditions. So the first one is nothing but similarly this heat fluxes at the interface. Then we have the surface stress tensor. Here we have this divergence term, because we do not a priori have that the divergence, I mean, it is incompressible or not. And then this third condition means this equates the mass fluxes from different part of the bulk body and the interfaces. And these last two conditions are quite important, which we'll see just in a minute. These two conditions essentially gives us the slip boundary condition, so that's why it's important. Okay, so far we have obtained several equations, and now we want to do some order of magnitude analysis and make some further assumption to simplify some equations. So the first one we consider is that the surface stress tensor is only given by this surface surface tension, which is here PSI. So essentially we had this relation, general relation for the surface stress tensor, and we neglect this last two term. So we can just assume this coefficients as 0, and then this is only given by the surface tension. That's the first assumption for the stress tensor at the interface. And then secondly, we assume that the chemical potential at the interface can be expanded in a Taylor series around this surface density at the equilibrium. So this E, small e, means here at the equilibrium, and therefore if I just go back and this third equation here, the first term in the right hand side, as you can see, this is the differences of the chemical potential, and this one we can write down from the Taylor series expansion as a derivative of some chemical potential, which is nothing but a constant, and then we can actually neglect the hydrodynamical effect which is coming from this term with respect to this chemical effect, and we end up with only this relation, which is the differences of the velocities in the normal direction is given by these differences of the surface density and the surface density at the equilibrium. And this tau is some relaxation time. Relaxation times means the time takes the system takes to reach the equilibrium point. So here, if you are a priori in the equilibrium, then this right hand side is equal to 0 because rho si is equal to rho si, and then you have again this impermeability condition. But this accounts the general condition. And then we consider the surface momentum equations. If you just remember, I can go back. Yeah. So this equation, this was the surface momentum equations, and so this is a vector equation. And if we consider the normal and tangential component, so we obtain these two equations. And here we have taken into account the specific form of the surface stress tensor, and also I guess the stress tensor for the liquid, etc. So with all this assumption, we obtain these two equations. So the first one, as I explained before also, this is nothing but the capillary equation, which is, so here Pg is the pressure of the gas, and here this is the differences of the pressures, and then this Ps is nothing but the surface tension, and kappa is the curvature. And then this equation is the Marangoni effect, which says which takes into account the gradient of the surface tension, because in our case the surface tension need not be 0, so hence we have this equation coming from this Marangoni effect. And then comes this boundary condition, which I just told you comes from these two equations. So if we combine these two equations, we can obtain this general condition. And finally, we need to impose, we need to say how the interface forms. So we assume that the interface formation is a Baltropy process here, and hence the pressure of the surface is given by this linear relation. But one may take into account a more general, a more general equation, which was actually proposed in the original model of Shimosai. But this is just a simple simplification of the general case. So these are the general boundary conditions. Some after some certain simplification. But on the liquid solid interface, essentially we have the similar equations except the boundary condition. We consider a little bit different boundary condition than this one. So if I go back here again, and if we remove this Vs, the surface velocity, I think yes, the surface velocity and probably some of the stress tensors, then again combining these two equations, we can obtain this Navier boundary condition. Here, the extra term is this gradient of the surface tension. So this, but other than that, this is exactly the Navier slip condition. So this is called by Shikmuzar as a generalized Navier slip condition. So this is the specific boundary condition for the liquid solid interface, but for the liquid gas interface, which is the free boundary in our case, we have this boundary condition. But other than that, all the equations are more or less similar. And at this point, okay, let me mention most interesting part probably of this model is that if you remember, so far we had this temperature, which is need not be a constant. And I told you in the beginning is that even the temperature can be different in each of the phases for the liquid, gas, and the solid. But okay, for example, we consider the temperature is same throughout the whole system, but is not a constant. And then we, for further simplification, we want to study the isothermal limit, and which means the temperature is essentially constant, and we perform some careful limit process, asymptotic limit, to obtain that isothermal condition. So with that, I hope you can see this. Yeah, so this is the full model which gives us this contact line condition, which models this contact line problem. So just don't get scared. There are too many equations, I know, but let me briefly explain. So the first equation is nothing but the incompressible Navier-Stokes equation, which gives the fluid in the bulk. There is no equation for the gas and the solid in the bulk. And then comes this interfaces. So for example, this liquid gas interface, which is the free interface. So the first condition is just the kinematic condition, which expresses how the free interface evolves. So this is essentially it says that normal velocity of the interface is given by the normal velocity of the corresponding interface velocity or the surface velocity. And then this equation is the mass balance equation for the interface, and this is the momentum balance equation. And then this then these two equations are this capillary equation and the Marangoni, coming from the Marangoni effect, this one. And this is the boundary condition which we just explained. And finally, we have this barotropic process condition. Similarly, we have all the equations for the liquid solid interface as well. The only difference being is that first of all, we have the Navier slip boundary condition here. And this one is nothing but the impermeability condition. So here essentially we assume that the normal velocity of the interface and the solid is 0 or equal. Yeah. And for the triple junction, which is the contact point, we have three conditions coming from the mass, momentum, and the energy equation. Here theta is our contact angle. So this is known as the Young condition, which says the contact angle is given by some linear relation by this the surface tensions of each of the interfaces. And here Vc is the velocity of the contact line, which depends on the velocity of each of the interfaces. And then this third condition is the coming from the energy equation at the contact point. But at this point, remember that we have already performed that the isothermal limit, and that means the temperature is constant, and which means there should be no contribution of the energy or the entropy equation, although we have obtained all these boundary conditions from this energy and entropy equation. If you remember, once again, is with this help of this Gibbs relation, we have obtained all these boundary conditions at the interfaces. But then with the isothermal limit process, all these energy equations vanishes in the isothermal limit, and similarly for the entropy equation as well. But interestingly, this third condition at the contact line, this is the energy equation which remains even in the isothermal limit. So this equation was missing in the actual work of Shikmuzar in his original paper, and there later there has been two authors, I think around 2006 by Billingham and then later by Bothe and Proust. They have said that they have showed the existence of this third relation, which is coming from the energy equation, and without this condition, they said that they claimed, they showed that this model is not well posed. So essentially, one needs this third equation. And that's what we have also done in our careful isothermal limit derivation. We have shown that even though there is no contribution of the energy or entropy equation in the bulk phases or at the interfaces, but at the contact line, there is this energy equation remains. So, okay, I mean, this is the full model of the contact line problem. And although this looks quite complicated, there are so many equations, but this is actually it is based on the very simple idea of the classical fluid dynamics and the irreversible thermodynamics. I mean, there was no extra, I mean, intrinsic or any other theory, anything involved. And yeah, so apparently this comes from a very simple theory, and this expresses how the interface formation or disappearance forms. So it can be used actually to express or to model different phenomena which involves interfaces, even though there is no contact line. I mean, contact line here is not the main point, but the point is the interfaces, how the interfaces forms or disappears. As I told in the beginning, the core idea of this process is that Sheikh Muzahib has assumed that each of these interfaces have their own properties. So that's what this rho s, the surface densities or the velocity Vs, comes from. And this actually can be think of a generalization of the standard model. So that's why I have put these equations in the red. So if you consider only the standard case, which I have shown in the beginning in the past models, what people have other people have proposed. So one has essentially this incompressible Navier-Stokes equation, and then for the free interface, one has this kinematic condition together with the capillary equation and the Marangoni effect. And for the liquid solid interface, one has simply the slip condition, some kind of slip condition. And for the triple junction, people use this Young's condition, and that's all. So there are all these extra conditions coming from essentially the changes in the surface densities and the surface velocities. So yeah, so although this model was quite intriguing to us, that's why we first wanted to see to deduce this model more carefully, especially because of this third missing condition, which was not in the original work. And after deducing, as you can see, there are several parameters involved. For example, here there is gamma 1, there is beta 1, alpha 1, and what else? This tau 1. I mean, there are so many parameters. So this is not still very easy to handle with, and that's why we wanted to study a thin film model based on this Sheikh Muzahib approach. So let me explain what is this lubrication approximation. That's nothing but when one considers in a system, one of the characteristic length scale is much larger than other one. So in this example, for this particular example, this is a thin droplet of a fluid sitting on a solid surface. And this top is the free boundary, which is given by some graph of a function. And this lambda 1, lambda 2 are the contact points. And here we assume this horizontal length scale, which is given by capital L, is much larger than the vertical length scale, which is the height of the fluid film, h. And the ratio of these two length scale is given by epsilon, which is much smaller compared to 1. And we essentially want to see what happens when epsilon goes to 0. And that's the typical lubrication approximation. And here we assume the solid is not moving, the velocity of the solid is 0. So after some careful rescaling of the variables and further calculations, we obtain this thin film approximation. I have not shown the deduction here, but that's just a standard lubrication approximation calculation. So let me explain the model. Here our h is the height of the fluid film, and this beta is the slip length. So if you remember, this slip coefficient appears in the Navier slip boundary condition, and the slip length here 1 over beta, as I represented here, this is nothing but the ratio of the friction coefficient and the length of the system. So this 1 over beta is the length scale, and then this zeta 1 and zeta 2, these are two more variables which are coming from the surface densities on the two interfaces. So zeta 1, zeta 2 are nothing but what I previously wrote rho by rho s 1 and rho s 2. So yeah, so if one is a bit familiar with the standard thin film equation, so you can remember that there is only this first part, this which I put in the red. So there is a time derivative of h plus the x derivative h over 3 plus 1 over beta times third derivative of h times h squared term. Only this part is in the standard classical thin film model. But now in our case, there are contribution of this zeta 1 and zeta 2 part. That's why this extra term comes. And then there are two more equations which gives the equations for zeta 1 and zeta 2. Of course, involving the height of the film h. And then there are the boundary conditions, which are nothing but the conditions at the contact line. So if you go back, if I go back, then these are the three equations at the triple junction, and that's what we have essentially here. These are the mass, momentum, and the energy equation after the rescaling, of course. And h equal to 0 is the standard condition, because we assume that at the contact line the height of the film is 0. So this is the full system of the thin film equation of the Shikmuzaev approach. And there are only two variables. One variable is this 1 over beta, that's a slip length, and the second variable is lambda, which involves different parameters. I didn't write the expression here, but it involves different parameters from this the model of Shikmuzaev. And there are essentially these two parameters. And yeah, I mean, okay. Okay, so what I wrote, again, put in red here is that the classical thin film equation, that is this part, and with this one considers these two boundary conditions. So this first condition is this contact angle condition, which is given by this del x h. So one can either consider this is equal to 0 or some non-zero constant. That means, but that means the contact angle is some prescribed constant. And then this the height h equal to 0 is the obvious one. So the difference with the standard model is that here you can see this contact line condition, this del x h, which is nothing but the contact angle, is actually a function of the zeta 1 and zeta 2, that is the surface velocity, surface density. So it is actually part of the system. It is an unknown part of the model one needs to determine, and not a priori given. So what so far people have considered in all the thin film model people have studied is that the contact angle is only given, which means the static contact angle. But this Shikmuzaev model actually gives the specific expression for the dynamic contact angle. So that is a bit quite a bit difference with the standard thin film model. And then yeah, so then again, this is like a classical thin film model. This is a fourth order equation, which is not which is degenerate, and a parabolic equation. And still it is quite complicated to study. What we have understood so far after some asymptotic analysis is that there is not enough parameter to determine uniquely the position of the contact point. So if you remember, the position of the contact point is again an unknown a priori. It is the part of the problem we need to determine. So here, as I said, there are mainly two parameters, which is this lambda and 1 over beta. And what we understood that there is not enough parameter to determine the position of the contact point uniquely. And that means that okay, so I mean, we expect, or yeah, so far what we understood is the existence of oscillations near the contact point. That means there is no Tanner's law. And this Tanner's law, if I briefly recall, is that it says that the speed of the contact line is proportional, which is equal to actually 1/3 of the contact angle. And this Tanner's law is there for the standard thin film model. And for the standard thin film model, it is already established the Tanner's law hold. But in this Shikmuzaev model, we have not been able to show so far is the Tanner's law hold. And yeah, so you can say this is a conjecture so far. We couldn't prove it rigorously, but that's what our understanding is. And but since this equation in we think is that it is more interesting to study it numerically rather than theoretically. It's quite complicated still, even in this thin film setting. I mean, we have reduced the main problem for this from this general setting to the thin film setting, it's a bit better, but still is quite complicated. And yeah, it would be more probably gives more insight if one can see the numerical result, for which we have not done yet. I mean, this is not complete work. And probably, I think I'll not mention this last part. And yeah, that's all from my side. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, thank you very much for your very nice and interesting talk. There were some questions I did not allow because